Well, hello, new product today from HobbyMate in this box. But before we get into it, a quick reminder to please like or dislike this video if you didn't like it. Leave a comment down below. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. And click that bell icon just to find out when I'm releasing content. And of course, always use sunscreen because most of those will really help me out. But let's get back into it. What is it? This is the HobbyMate Comet ready to fly quad. This comes in a few flavours actually. There's a ready to fly model, a plug and fly model, and there's a kit. And they asked me which one I wanted, and I thought well, I could do the kit as a build, but it'd be nice to see the quality of their own build in their quad. So I have the ready to fly model. In here already, as we open the box, you've got the instructions for the various components in there. You've got a linear antenna that will plug into the VTX, and I guess what looks like something you could plug to an external receiver. You've got a battery strap, some mounting hardware, and the little OSD control for a camera. And quite tightly packed in this a bit of foam is the quad itself. So let's get this out. Oh, hang on, missed something. I just missed this. This is the Foxeer Lollipop, which I used on the Coppice 2, and that really works quite well. Just taking the quad out. In the bottom of the box, some more instructions on a Foxeer camera, some nice of that silicone sticky pad to keep the battery there, and a manual for the XM Plus. So getting the quad out of the box, this is what we've got, and I'm glad I got them to send me the RTF version to take a look at the quality of the build, because just looking at the quality of the build, it's really very good. All the soldering points are spot on. Everything is tied up nicely. This frame has got these lovely rounded edges. We've got 2305, 2500 motors. You see we've got recessed screws on the bottom here to create a nice flat surface. We got the XM Plus. It's quite an interesting thing, and Andy RC told me to look at this. The ESC board here has some sort of copper tape to cover it and insulate that. The VTX on the top is actually upside down, so the receiver can sit on it, and you've actually just got a space where you can actually press the bind button without taking anything off the top. In terms of what the spec is on this, the ESC board is called an Airbot Typhoon, runs BL 32, 35 amp. Flight controller is an Airbot F4. None of these I've heard of before, but I'm told are very good. Legs are 5mm, the upper lower plates are 2mm, which sandwich the legs inside. Got a Foxeer Arrow Pro micro camera with a 1.8mm lens. I've never had such a wide angle lens before, so that's going to be interesting. The VTX is apparently 0 to 600 milliwatts with smart audio support. Apparently the ESCs even support ESC telemetry. So this has all been installed and built, and you can see the FreeSky receivers brought forward on the arms there, which is something I quite like. Another interesting point here is this MMCX adapter. There is a hole here to bring up to the SMA. They've put this TPU mount around the legs to go out the back here at a slightly different angle. It gives you a bit more real estate here. Maybe it gives it a little bit more flexibility. If there's a crash, then obviously this can deform a bit more than the antenna can. One really interesting thing about this as a plug and fly or an RTF is it doesn't come with any props. I guess that's a packaging thing. It's not like they're sort of saving too much money by not shipping props. Well, I just thought it was an interesting thing. They suggest Dal 5045 or Gemfan 5152 free-bladed props. I'll see what I've got in my prop bin. I think I've got some Dow Cyclones, which are sort of my favourite props to fly with anyway. But yeah, I'll just put the rest of the bits together and we'll plug it into Betaflight and we'll see what we've got in terms of having to set things up. So let's jump into Betaflight, and it's fairly good config they've done here. I was quite impressed. Haven't touched anything yet, but I just wanted to show us what it was. Betaflight 3.5.1. In the ports we have lots of UARTs, which is always good. UART 2 is IRC Tramp. I'm sure I read it as Smart Audio, but it seems to be IRC Tramp. We've got UART 4 for ESC telemetry, and UART 6 for serial RX, and as I said, we've got the little FreeSky XM Plus in there, and I've already bound this. Configuration wise, DShot 1200, cool. Motor stop, thank you people listening to me about motor stop. I like it. Many other people don't. We have an 8K loop. Currently it's called HobbyMate, of course. And we've got OSD, ear sensor, anti-gravity and dynamic filter activated. You notice beeper configuration has nothing activated. There doesn't actually seem to be a beeper here, so I think we're going to need to set up a D-shot beeper at the very least. Also notice that we've got a barrow on this flight control as well, which is quite interesting. Pit tuning wise, they've definitely done some work here. Look at the eye gain on the yaw, it's absolutely massive. If we compare it to the norm, yep, they've definitely done some work there. It'll certainly be interesting to fly this. I'm just going to make a change about putting my Super 8 up to 0.8 because that's the norm. Everything else here looks normal, except you'll notice the quad is spinning crazily, and that's because if we look at the receiver tab, we'll see that channel map setting is TAER instead of my normal EATR. Let's quickly save that. That looks a bit better, doesn't it? Now, also notice they've already set up the RSSI version of the XM Plus, and that's on aux4. So I just need to do, looks like a little bit of sub trimming there, and then sort the rest of it out. That's cool. Modes wise, they've almost put the same modes on that I would normally use, but they've put them all on, you know, different aux channels. So I'll have to go in and sort that out quickly. So the only place I'm going to really make a lot of difference is in the Betaflight OSD, as they've sort of shoved stuff right in the middle of the screen, and I like to use the corners. Also a bunch of stuff I probably won't want there, but I'll sort that out. But yeah, pretty impressive with how it was set. A lot of things I like there and not too much to change around. But let's sort that out and then we can take this thing out for a fly. Well, hi from the field, and we're here with the HobbyMate Comet. We've got the Dow 5040 Cyclones on there, ready to go. It's looking good. Might have a look at this camera angle to see if that's too extreme. I won't know until it's down on the ground. But yeah, it's kind of cold today, but we chose a day where there's actually sun there. It's sort of hiding. But it's been really, really bad weather the last week. This has gone back to effectively marsh, so I have to be very careful on the landings. But anyway, let's get this up, line of sight it, and get it on some FPV flights. Okay, let's try line of sight and test this thing. Well, that's certainly got plenty of power. It's up on certainly less than half a throttle. Might need a little bit of throttle expo here, or throttle curve. Give it a quick punch. Don't want to come down, come back. Wowzers. That seems to have some power. This is going to be interesting for sure. So we're up and in the air, and yeah, that VTX does have a microphone, but you'll notice it's pretty noisy, so I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. A couple of words about the OSD here. First off, I've got the barometer on this one, so I thought I'd have it activated there. Secondly, I had a viewer request here from the Pragmatist, who talked about maybe putting a throttle indicator in the OSD for reviews, which I thought, to be honest, as like, oh, I don't really think I'd use that. But this actually turned out to be pretty useful, because I could see in this exactly how much throttle I'm having to put in there, which is hardly anything. And you'll see what happens when you give it full beans. It's got an awful lot of power. So yeah, first impressions of this is I'm really impressed. It's really smooth out the box. These are the stock settings, aside from my super rate being increased to 0.8, and it's just flying around really nicely, and with, you know, barely a third stick half the time. So this is pretty nice. Also have to make a quick correction as well. I talked in the beta flight setup about probably needing to put the D-Shot beeper active. It actually already was active, but of course I couldn't hear it because I didn't have a battery plugged in. But yeah, there was no extra setup there. But I have put my external battery-backed beeper on just in case I had a problem. Light handling on the camera is very good. These are some really nice components, and I'm flying here all the way in 25 milliwatts, and you can see that the picture is really clean and really good. This quad is just put together really nicely with some excellent components, just to work really nicely together. When I tried pushing the throttle up to 100%, I just didn't have enough camera tilt to be able to get that full speed. It is ferociously fast, but you will need to angle that camera up massively. I could only get to about 70% without looking directly at the floor. Now, in this second battery, I was doing a couple of flypasts to see if I could get some nice footage on my GoPro, and you can see I'm just going along with sort of 30-40% throttle, and hopefully you can see it still looks pretty quick when we have a look at these flypasts. Handling was just fantastic on this one. It will just do anything I wanted it to. Okay, I'm 2 batteries down and the sun's come back out, which is lovely. So I thought I'd do an experiment. This thing seems crazy efficient. I'm using pretty crappy batteries and there's so much power. And looking at that throttle percentage, it's barely taking anything to stay in the air. So what I've got is this old Nanotech 1300 from April 2016. And let's see if we can dawdle around the field, see how long we get. I imagine we'd get at least sort of 6 minutes if I go for a maximum dawdle, but let's find out. So you will know, as I did, that the voltage is slightly over. It's over by 0.2. So I made a note of this, A, to come back and correct it, and B, to try and land on 14.2. But let's speed this up by 2,644% or so, because it's not very exciting to watch. It wasn't hugely exciting to fly, but occasionally when I'm in the mood I like to do this just to see how it goes. And you can see there that I'm sort of between 20-25% throttle most of the time, and it's popping around the field without a problem. So we're coming down here and we're just about to hit 14.2, which is probably about 14 volts here, which is why I went back pretty smartish. Now, if you're ever doing these sort of endurance flights, what you won't have is that bit of battery recovery, because of course you're flying at minimum. So if you fly it down to the minimum, you will find that that battery voltage disappears fairly quickly. So you need to bring it down quite fast, else it's gonna rip into that battery. Anyway, 11 minutes, which is crazy. So I wanted to check that the VTX would still be clean if I put it on different power ratios. So I popped it up to 200, which I tend to think is what a lot of people fly, just to see how that would be. Had to say I fully expected it to work really nicely because it seems really good. And yeah, as you can see there, we've got no issues at all with the cleanliness of the picture, just zero interference. It all looks really nice. And I then put it back to 100 just as a test. To be honest though, in this field I wasn't getting any issues whatsoever, just using 25 milliwatts, which is great news for people who are flying with others or in races and stuff like that. This is going to be absolutely fantastic. So yeah, what can I say? Flies fantastically smoothly out of the box, absolutely no problems, handles fantastically, does just what you want it to. And has got loads of power, but is very efficient if you fly around slowly. I put the angle of the camera down just very slightly, just so I could make sure I could land happily. And I could. Wowzers, that was unexpected. If you couldn't tell, I was pretty blown away by this. And I'll tell you why, and quite honestly, I'd never really heard of HobbyMate aside from their chargers, so I didn't really think they'd have much of a quad to show. I've been lucky enough to test some really great ready to fly and plug and play quads this year, like the HDLRC Batman 220, the HobbyMate Comet RTF, and I have to put this right up there on the elite status. As far as a RTF quad goes, you can't really do much better than this. The components used are fantastic. The cleanliness of the signal all the way through is fantastic. The quality of the parts used, just amazing. And let me tell you, there's plenty of people that put together really quality parts and it doesn't necessarily turn out into a good quad. This has, which is really, really good. But I'll tell you one really special thing about this quad. Despite the quality and how well it flies, it comes out fairly cheap. This is the RTF version with the XM Plus receiver, and this is currently up, and I say currently because these prices always change, $210. And if you were to get the kit version, it's down as low as $179, which for this sort of quality you're getting is pretty special, I have to say. And this is where it comes up way ahead of the HDLC and even further ahead of the Coppers in terms of price, because this is a fairly low cost option to get something really quite special from it. So yeah, most certainly check them out at HobbyCool, who supplied this. I'll of course have links down below. And you can actually get an 1800 kV motor version for this, which I think is for racing 6S. A few little highlights as well. This camera, the little Foxeer Micro, the 1.8mm lens, which I thought was going to be like, that's going to be really wide angle and distort. No! Not at all, and I think that shows the sort of quality of the lens which is in here. It didn't have any problems with it at all. I was slightly concerned that the VTX was placed upside down. There were no heat issues, there were no noise issues, there were just no issues. I love something with no issues. But of course, with something this good, we can't just leave it at the one video. So I have flown it around just with the camera as is, so no HD. Now of course this would make a pretty cool RTF racing quad. You can angle that camera way up, you can get it going very fast. But there is a nice plate here and there's nothing to stop us putting a GoPro or similar HD camera on. So when we come back, probably after the new year, I'm going to test it with a GoPro, see how it works as a camera ship. Hopefully it'll be pretty nice, and we'll check that out. So this has been the HobbyMate Comet and was supplied by HobbyCool. Thanks very much, and links are again down below. Hope that video has been useful, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye for now.
Well, you've made it to the end of the video, so thanks once again for watching. If you like what you saw, then please consider subscribing, and if you really like what you saw, then be sure to check out the link to my blog for a variety of ways in which you can help support this channel.